Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. And this is Saint Alban from the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry by Albert G. Mackey. Saint Alban or Albanus, the proto-martyr of England, was born in the 3rd century at Verulam, now St. Albans, in Hertfordshire. In his youth he visited Rome and served 7 years as a soldier under the Emperor Diocletian. On his return to Britain he embraced Christianity and was the first who suffered martyrdom in the great persecution which raged during the reign of that emperor. The Freemasons of England have claimed St. Alban as being intimately connected with the early history of the Fraternity in that island. Anderson, Constitutions, 1738, page 57, says, "This is asserted by all the old copies of the Constitutions, and the old English Masons firmly believed it." And he quotes from the old Constitutions. St. Alban loved Masons well and cherished them much, and he made their pay right good, viz. 2 shillings per week and 3 pence to their cheer, whereas before that time, through all the land, a Mason had but a penny a day and his meat, until St. Alban amended it. He also obtained of the king a charter for the Freemasons for to hold a general council, and gave it the name of Assembly, and was thereat himself as Grand Master, and helped to make Masons, and gave them good charges. We have another tradition on the same subject, for in a little work published about 1764 at London, under the title of The Complete Freemason, or Multa Paucis for the Lovers of Secrets, we find the following statement, page 47, in reference to the Masonic character and position of St. Alban. In the following, the 3rd century, Gordian sent many architects over into England, who constituted themselves into lodges and instructed the craftsmen in the true principles of Freemasonry. And a few years later, Carausius was made Emperor of the British Isles, and being a great lover of art and science, appointed Albanus Grand Master of Masons, who employed the fraternity in building the palace of Verulam, or St. Albans. Both of these statements are simply legends or traditions of the not unusual character, in which historical facts are destroyed by legendary additions. The fact that St. Alban lived at Verulam may be true, most probably is so. It is another fact that a splendid episcopal palace was built there, whether in the time of St. Alban or not is not so certain, but the affirmative has been assumed, and hence it easily followed that if built in his time, he must have superintended the building of the edifice. He would, of course, employ the workmen, give them his patronage, and to some extent, by his superior abilities, direct their labors. Nothing was easier then than to make him, after all this, a Grand Master. The assumption that St. Alban built the palace at Verulam was very natural, because when the true builder's name was lost, supposing it to have been so, St. Alban was there ready to take his place, Verulam having been his birthplace. The increase of pay for labor and the annual congregation of the Freemasons in a general assembly having been subsequent events, the exact date of whose first occurrence has been lost by a process common in the development of traditions, they were readily transferred to the same era as the building of the palace at Verulam. It is not even necessary to suppose, by way of explanation as Preston does, that St. Alban was a celebrated architect and a real encourager of able workmen. The whole of the tradition is worked out of these simple facts: that architecture began to be encouraged in England about the 3rd century, that St. Alban lived at that time at Verulam, that a palace was erected then, or at some subsequent period in the same place. And in the lapse of time, Verulam, St. Alban, and the Freemasons became mingled together in one tradition. The inquiring student of history will neither assert nor deny that St. Alban built the palace of Verulam. He will be content with taking him as the representative of that builder, if he was not the builder himself, and he will thus recognize the proto-martyr as the type of what is supposed to have been the Freemasonry of his age, or perhaps only of the age in which the tradition received its form. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.